Good evening. Welcome everybody to our study session before our regular board meeting at 6 o'clock. I'm not sure I can tell. Is everybody here? How do I find that out? Board members, say here, so we know your name. Nancy, help me out here. At least you could say you're here.
Oh, I'm here.
I'm here.
Susan was up.
We got Zane here. We got Rich here.
So call him Board Member
Doug?
Wilson.
Board member Wilson. Can you hear us? Board member Jeremy. Board member Doug. I'm not sure everybody's, can you hear us, please? Thumbs up?
Yep.
Who's yes?
Jeremy, thank you.
Jeremy, you're here. Joyce, did I hear you? Susan, I can see you. Who's able to hear us? Please respond. I can see, is that Adam?
I can hear.
Adam Aspen, JM, Jeremy.
I can hear you.
Okay. It's board members, no disrespect to anybody. I want to make sure board members can hear us.
I can hear you.
Thank you, Doug.
I can hear.
Jennifer.
Okay, great. All right, then let's get, I'm assuming you can hear. If you can't, then please make some kind of a gesture, a thumbs down, or grab your throat or something. Let us know that you can hear us. Okay. So looking at our agenda.
I can hear you, Don.
Wonderful, thanks, Susan. So looking at our agenda for tonight, there's just a couple of things quickly. We want to go down to our, I'll just start with our consent calendar. There were a lot of things that were moved up to that. Did anybody have any specific questions regarding the land trust plans, the RFP for the combine oven, fresh fruits and vegetable, asbestos removal, intercom system? Any of those items in the consent calendar, any board member has a question that we can address at this time? I had one. Ken, can you hear, regarding the asbestos removal?
Yeah, go ahead.
So that was to start, I think, the end of June. If I remember right. I'm still not able to pull details up on my iPad, so wasn't it to start the end of June?
No, it wanted to be finished for the end of June for the demolition, so they wanted to do it earlier in June, is what I took.
So what's the timetable on the asbestos removal?
During the month of June, expected to be completed the end of June.
Okay.
There you go. Correct.
Ready for the demolition.
So my thought is there any way to potentially move that up a few weeks since we're not in school?
Steve, do you want to let them know what our conversations have been with the asbestos companies so far?
Yeah, so we've checked. So far, we haven't been able to move anything yet because they already have pre-scheduled jobs that they're doing. And so, yeah, we haven't been able to do anything up so far.
You're still working with them potentially for that?
Well, and the other problem is Gramercy Elementary, we're still getting that ready for the T.O. Smith to be moved over. And also we still have school going on as far as, there's just not kids there, but there's teachers in and out of the building. And trying to move them any earlier, I think is going to be a big disruption on top of everything else that's going on right now. So as far as everything, we felt it'd stick to the schedule. We are going to try to move portables a little bit earlier, so we are going to try and get that accomplished. So.
Okay. I'm not sure. Any comments anybody has with regards to any other items listed on the consent calendar?
Don, I just had a quick question.
Okay,
Asbestos removal. I'm just curious, go to the land dump?
you broke up on us, I'm not
Just
sure.
to go to the land
Does
dump?
it, where does asbestos go? Steve can answer that. Steve, where does the asbestos go? Does it go to the,
Yeah. It goes to a designated facility that accepts that type of waste. So, yeah, it's all bagged up and properly disposed of.
Okay, did that answer your question, Susan? Did you hear that, Susan? Did that answer your question? I sure hope this virtual stuff ends pretty darn quick. Okay, any other questions then?
that's a no?
I'll take that as a no. Superintendent, do you want to say anything regarding administrative appointments, or do you want to share that just when the time comes?
When the time comes, we'll announce that and invite those, new appointments to say a few words to the board, following that appointment.
Okay.
As I introduce them.
All right, so then if we look down, committee reports just quickly. Joyce, how long do you think you'll take regarding policy and law?
Oh, 3 minutes.
We had mentioned the other day about item increasing student achievement 10C. That was gonna be a big part of your discussion, is that correct?
Not mine. Is that Jennifer's?
No, that's the,
That's the board policy revisions, the first reading. I thought those were things that we talked about under what your committee had mentioned.
We did talk about electronic meetings.
Electronic meetings, the junior high activities.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I thought you mentioned something else.
no, so that will be a big chunk of what you'll say during or discuss.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so 3 to 5 minutes depending on questions, that'll be great. Jennifer, as far as student achievement, things that you'd like, what are you planning on bringing up that we could prepare for?
We just talked about the ALA and, the PEP program and, what was the last thing? I don't know. I'll have to look at my notes. Mine won't take very long.
Okay, thank you. All right, Doug, budget and finance, have we met? We haven't.
I'm just here to watch the proceedings, so not.
We haven't met, okay, all right, that'll be fine. Then I understand Paul and Nolan has signed up for public participation. Take that as a no.
Hey, Don, this is Ken.
Yes,
Hey, just, so tying into budget, finance, and facilities, just to let you guys know, we did have the bid openings for Polk on Tuesday. And I could share some preliminary stuff with you now if you would like. Originally, we were planning on having it approved at the May 14th board meeting, but we'd like to move it up to April 30th if we could, to get moving on that a little faster.
it'll be all right. What would you share what you're finding out or have
You
found?
bet. Yep, so we had 4 contractors submit bids. We had 5 that were pre-approved. One withdrew from bidding a couple of hours before the bid was due. We had the 2 lowest bids came in about 100,000 within 100,000 of each other. And then the last 2 also came in within 100,000 of each other, but there was about a $6 million spread between 2 and 3. So Hughes General Contractors came in with the lowest base bid at $25.8 million. And then Bud Mahas came in at 25.95 million, with R&O Construction and Wattman Corporation both coming in at 31 million. We did have an alternate with that, and so it's for solar panels, and so we'll be bringing that to you on the April 30th board meeting, along with an overall budget for the Polk project. But very good news on the bid numbers.
Great. Any questions for board members with Ken's
No,
information?
this is Joyce, not a question, but April 30th is a work session, so we'll just have to make it a regular meeting also.
Okay,
Create an action item.
thank you. Any other comments? Okay, item 10A, under increasing student achievement, will be information item, our annual TSSA, success plans, goal and action. So we'll have that dialogue at that point in time. Is there anything, JM, that you want to prep us for, or just save everything for that point in time?
No, I can just save it for that point in time, and it should only take around 10 minutes with questions.
Great. The last item we have there, well, no, not the last, but the 10B, an action item awarding the RFP, Oracle Developer Services. That may be something that we could potentially move up to our consent calendar if we can get all of our questions answered in the next few minutes. Casey, do you want to share items with regards to that?
What that is just choosing 3 companies to provide computer programming services to help facilitate the advancement of the Ovation platform as it relates to programs and helping data become available to schools and administrators. Is there any questions I can answer, anything like that?
Did you hear that? Casey's wondering if there are any questions from board members with regards to this action item 10B.
I felt like the synopsis was pretty thorough.
Thank you. Any other comments? Would everybody be okay if we were to move that item up to our consent calendar during our regular session?
I'm fine with it.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
All right. But that's everything I can see.
Just thank those that are helping with this technology and making that possible. Cameron, Chuck, thank you so much for setting us up and making sure that we can still broadcast and remain safe under these circumstances. Casey, for your support, and Jared, for your support as well. Thank you.
So is Cameron your given name, or is that now something you changed with your job? Cameron, is that?
It is given.
Okay, thanks. It's hard to be funny when you're staring at people on a screen. Anything else regarding our study session that board members or anyone else would like to bring up? If not, we may cut you loose for a few minutes then. Zane, you got any?
I'll stay put.
Okay, thanks. All right. Okay,
We're adjourned for 15 minutes.
we're adjourned for 13 minutes. We'll come back on at 6:58. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our April 16, 2020 school board meeting for the month of April. Appreciate all of you that are here. We've got in-house our superintendent, our business administrator, board member Nancy Blair, myself, and we have all other board members and many from the district staff for joining us virtually. I'd like to again thank Cameron, Jer, and Casey in-house to help us with the technology that are taking place this evening. So we are going to begin with one item, as was mentioned just briefly in our study session, increasing student achievement. Action item 10B, awarding an RFP for Oracle Developer Services, will be moved up to our consent calendar. And with that note change to the agenda, we'll have a moment of reverence, this time by JM, then a pledge of allegiance by Jethro. I didn't see Jethro here.
I'd be happy to do
If
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, if you'll lead us in that after the moment of reverence by JM. So JM, we'll turn it over to you.
If everyone could please bow their heads. Our dear Heavenly Father, at this time, we thank you for having the opportunity for all of us to meet virtually. And we ask for your guidance for our board members during this challenging and difficult, stressful time to make the best decisions for the learning and the progression and success for all of our students and their families. We thank you very much, and we leave this to you in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Okay, for the Pledge of Allegiance, just recite along with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will, looking at our celebrating student achievement, we have one item, our superintendent's celebration. We'll turn the time over to Dr. Knight.
Thanks, Board President. I am going to pull up and share a screen. So just give me one moment and we should be good to go. And we are good to go. Per my celebration, as you can imagine, as we in the Ogden School District and as a community, we have been tremendously impacted by COVID-19. We adhere strictly to the directives of our health departments, the State Board of Education, the Governor's Office, as we have had to completely redefine what it is to provide educational resources for students where that primary learning environment is the home. We've had to redefine basic operational procedures. With that being said, though, we have maintained operations through the lens of literacy and graduation, with our anchors of academic excellence, social emotional learning, and talent development at the forefront. Just a little bit more context, as I mentioned, this is uncharted territory for us and I would say for everyone in the state. And as a district and as schools, it's uncharted territory. We've never had to go down this path before. I can honestly and sincerity say I couldn't be more pleased and proud of all those that work for, volunteer in, or serve the Ogden School District for the way we've been able to respond to this crisis. With that being said, while we've identified all the resources and obstacles, and we're working to identify further, we wanted to understand more how, in redefining how we deliver educational services, child nutrition services, social emotional services, as we consider the health and well-being of our employees, we've gone out and asked them. We've created a couple questionnaires, one that went to the community and another that went to the faculties of our various school districts to see what it is that they're experiencing in light or through the lens of of education and providing those resources. So we received quite the response rate when you're doing survey type research or questionnaire type studies. A good return is one that we're seeing here, where our community participation survey, we had nearly 1,800 respondents. As you can imagine, these are parents who have, many of them, multiple children in the home, and that's where you see approximately of the 1,800 respondents that represented about 4,000 students in our district. So just a really good return. Thank again, a lot of this was pushed out electronically. Some of it was when our patrons were grabbing breakfast and lunch and going, we were able to pause just for a moment and have them answer a few questions at a distance, all safety protocols being followed, and grateful for our support staff to be able to help do that. Faculty was the same. We have just north of 700 teachers in the school district, and we received a return of 574 respondents. So we really feel like with that return, we can make some generalizations to what that experience is in the Ogden School District. So as you can imagine, there's different themes, just a couple different things that I'd like to review for the board's awareness. And really, if I can, at the risk of overstating, as I proceed through this, a survey or a questionnaire is only as good as what you do with the information after you receive it. In other words, what action steps have we put in place and how have we addressed the issues that were brought up? And so I'd really like to focus on that. Here's the information, this is what we're doing about it to try and improve the situation or enhance it in any way that we can. So just quickly, just a couple, again, high-level type responses, but very important for us to realize. As you know, and Mr. Crawford, our over child nutrition program, he can speak and correct me, he's online. But we have served ever since April, the beginning of April, we have averaged 14,007 meals a day coming through and being delivered through our district. A Herculean effort, and you can see here why. Of those that responded, about 58% of the families that responded depend, as part of their nutrition in the home, they depend on the school district meals, that breakfast and lunch. So which does certainly speak to the 14,007 meals that we see moving through our schools. And so we are very grateful to those that make that happen for our community. But at the same token, there's 42% who at this time don't necessarily require the district meals to supplement what it is that they have in the home or have available. Student engagement with district-provided educational resources. As we have built online learning modules, as we put together packets, we really want to know how are our students being affected in the home. And so one of the questions were, how many hours a day are you spending on district-provided or school-provided educational resources? As you can see, about 28% are spending 3+ hours a day. I'll have Adam speak to a couple of these things in just a moment. About 35%, 2 to 3 hours a day, and again, about another 26% that are spending 1 to 2 hours a day. Adam, would you mind chiming in here and elaborating just a little bit on what the expectation is and the targets we're trying to reach with the at-home learning experience?
Certainly. As soon as the dismissal launched, one of the first challenges we faced was, what does home learning look like? And then within that, what could we expect as far as kind of an estimation of time for effort at the home, considering what our parents are going through as well and their ability to support our students and our ability for the teachers to also engage. We landed on approximately 3 hours we were aiming for as a ceiling for learning for our students as they were considering their classes. Also knowing that for some other specialized courses in high school, AP, CE, concurrent enrollment, particularly, that they have external accountability measures that would demand some extra time that's out of our control. But generally speaking, we were aiming for the 3 hours. We knew going in, especially that first 2 weeks prior to spring break, that teachers figuring out what that feels like and looks like, be it their home packets or online learning, They were going to be challenged in trying to find that sweet spot, kind of the Goldilocks, not too much, not too little. And that certainly happened to a certain degree, but our teachers working closely with our admins responded very quickly. We talked about this often. Parents were great at providing us feedback as to how they were experiencing the learning at home. And those adjustments are ongoing. Right now, I believe if we were to recapture this information based on the conversations we've been having with our admins and then the admins in turn leading that effort out in their buildings, I think we would be much closer to that 3 hours a day, knowing that there's going to be some variance depending on the student's skill level as well. But I believe that our teachers are starting to hone in on what that actually looks like and feels like. Again, checking the concurrent enrollment and AP requirements that are external to our control. We have also recently started collaborative team meetings where we're bringing together all ELA math and science teachers from kindergarten through 12th grade for weekly meetings. They're 2-hour meetings, and that's our opportunity to bring all of our professionals together as we're writing this best practices playbook for educating students in a pandemic. We didn't want all that expertise and experience to remain housed just at one school or in one classroom. So we're bringing all teachers, and they're separated by grade level, or if we get into the secondary schools, they're separated by content level, and they're sharing their experiences, what's worked well, what hasn't. We certainly want to make sure we talk about even those things that haven't, so we don't make the mistake of repeating them, or if someone hasn't made those missteps, we want to save them maybe from those challenges. So those have just started, and again, that's contributing here to providing a better at-home experience for our students and making sure that we're maximizing our teachers' effort as well. And a lot of that is in great part to the partnerships too that we've had with the principals. Communication is challenging in this crisis, and we wanted to streamline communication. So really leading out the teachers, we've been very cautious about the messaging that goes directly from the district to the teachers. We have relied like we can and trusting on our admins to lead that out, and they've been exceptional. The communication as a challenge here has been exceptional with the admins, and either in live video conferencing or through other means. So those are some of the efforts we've been putting in place to tackle and respond to what we've heard from these surveys.
Great. Thank you, Mr. McMichael. And just to underscore that, we really see ourselves in this space as partnering with parents to ensure that learning is occurring in the home. And so we want to be very sensitive as to what it is that we're asking them to do in their home. And in this case, monitoring that even by the number of hours expended a day in their home environment. So thank you. We wanted to understand, part of the parent response is who needs devices? A lot of the learning that is occurring is device dependent. We do have options, and we have packets and things, physical copies of items for people to take home as well. But to help us wrap our heads a little bit around that, we needed to say, who has access to a device, a reliable device? And 80% of the respondents said they do. Whether it be a tablet, you see it there, laptop, Chromebook, desktop computer, 80% of the families have access to a device in the home. That helps us immensely. Actually, we see though that there's still a large percent, about 15%, who do not have access to a device at home, and that's where we've been able to distribute to Mr. Bowden, IT and his team, the schools, the investments that they have made in Chromebooks. We have been able to issue a device to every household that desires one, and in some cases, multiple devices depending on the number of children that they have in the home and the access that they need there. So no one has gone for want of device, and we also, when you see that not regular access, about another 5%, making sure that they do have regular access if they need it. So we have checked out Chromebooks and other devices for our kids for their use in the home. With that though, a device is only as good as your access to high-speed internet or any internet. With that being said, we have about 10% that have no access. Some kids have access through their smartphone, but a lot of our programs, and as you can imagine, learning platforms, whether it be Canvas or Google Classroom, a smartphone isn't as ideal, right, in accomplishing that. About 20% said they have slow internet, with only about 62% saying, hey, we have we have high-speed access. To that end, we have been trying to eliminate barriers. In a message that I had sent to the board earlier, we had received some additional hotspots. Mr. Bowden in IT is able to secure through T-Mobile. As you can imagine, it's the hot item. It's New York, as we understand. Casey, they bought up about all the hotspots that were available. We were very fortunate to get another 75 to supplement those that we already have. And so if a child or a family needs access to the internet, we're able to issue those hotspots so they have that connectivity in their home if they so desire. We're also working with other providers, internet providers, and they're making their services available at low to, in many cases, no cost. And we're still working through some of those details. As far as the board is concerned, if you have questions, you want to stop me, please do, or ask clarifying questions. This isn't intended to be a monologue by any means, but let me know if there are questions as we go along. Social emotional well-being of children, that is one of our anchors, that social emotional space. How is this affecting kids in the home? So you can imagine it's quite traumatic to many of our children and adults for that matter, and we'll get to adult social emotional well-being here in just a moment, given these circumstances. We want to know how our children are doing. In this space, about 42% of the parents said we're not necessarily concerned right now with our children's social emotional well-being. We're monitoring that, that kind of thing, we understand. Almost 50% though, 46% said, hey, we are somewhat concerned about this and its toll on kids. And then we had 11% that are extremely concerned about the social emotional well-being of their children. I've asked Assistant Superintendent Carpenter and Ms. Henderson if you wanted to weigh in, talk, if you wouldn't mind, inform the board about what it is that we are doing to provide social emotional supports.
Absolutely, and Aspen, I'll jump in first, but feel free to fill in any gaps. For the purposes of this survey, we define social emotional well-being as thoughts, feelings, behaviors, interactions, so the parents kind of understood a little bit more what we were seeking. And this SEL effort has really been led by Aspen, the entire student advocacy services team, and our administrators. They have stepped up to the challenge that this holds as well. The approaches that we've developed are far-reaching and diverse. The response to the SEL needs have included everything from the creation of Instagram pages and Facebook posts to help parents who are now at home educating or helping educate students and might need some additional supports when it comes to behavior and scheduling and those behavior skills at home. The homework packets that have gone home, which have been created by the teachers, we've also included Tier 1 social skills lessons to complement those academic learning. Our student support professionals, our employee support professionals, their job descriptions have been adjusted and modified to help with some of the outreach and support to the students at home. And so that's been a tremendous benefit. Some of that is via phone calls in reaching out and connecting to students that we're having a hard time connecting with, or being an advocate and a cheerleader for students to engage and re-engage and address their needs that they have. We know that in order to access the learning, you've got to have your basic needs met. The other thing is our Tier 2 chat, which was functioning really well during the quote-unquote normal school day. That has continued. This virtual space has allowed that to continue, and our principals and chat teams, child assistant teams at the schools have continued to carry that forward. And even interventions have been modified to allow for a continuance of interventions and support with some modifications for the at-home space. And then starting this week and happening kind of periodically between now and the end of the school year, we're going to engage our 7th through 12th graders in hearing more from them. So we've worked with Panorama, which is our early warning system, in creating surveys to understand a little bit more fully the students' perspective of their well-being. during this at-home learning period. So it's been a tremendous lift. I appreciate so much Aspen and her team, as well as the schools, in addressing not only the academic needs of our students, but their social emotional needs as well.
Okay, thank you, Assistant Superintendent Carpenter. Ms. Henderson, did you have anything to add, or did I think you may have covered it all? Okay, but as you can see there, it's not lost on us.
Excuse me, hey, this is Joyce. I did want to mention that one of our principals today shared a message on Facebook about parents being careful about complaining about their children being home. And I think that fits right in this social emotional well-being.
Yeah, definitely. Parenting strategies, you want to make sure that it's hard for the kids right now to have this disruption of their routine. Great point, Board Member Wilson, and as parents and as a community, we need to be careful how we speak about when our children are at home and not part of that regular routine, so we don't send an inappropriate message to our children that somehow having them not at school is an additional burden. I mean, and you've also seen, if I were to shift gears a little bit, we've also seen where there's been that tremendous outreach to make sure that the children, wherever they are along the continuum, social, emotional, or academic or otherwise, have their specific needs being met in the home, and how we as a school district can reach there to make sure that not only the student but the parent feels supported in that effort. Thank you, Board Member Wilson, for bringing that up. The messages that we should be communicating. Shifting gears a little bit, we asked our faculties again, what obstacles are there to teaching remotely? And as you can see, about 24% reduced student engagement. That's one of our concerns. As we're trying to engage students, we're doing it remotely. We don't necessarily have that touch point when they're in our school anymore. How do we make sure? So we see that our teachers are noticing, and we are noticing that there is a reduction in student engagement, and we have specific strategies to address that. Already talked about internet. Teachers are also noticing that. Difficulty communicating with students, for those that can log on, or whether it's through text or email or chat. What is that communication with the parents to be able to reach the students? And we did identify in the survey what was the best way for parents to be contacted, and we broke that down as well. I don't have it shared here, but I'm more than happy to share it with you. But as you can imagine, email was the primary touch point, then a phone, then a chat, then other devices, the peach jar, those types of things. We have 2% where the teachers have not found any obstacles to teaching remotely, and so that's worth noting. As we experience at times, sometimes technology doesn't always work the way that we thought it would, and we have addressed some specific barriers there. Mr. McMickle talked about our collaborative team meetings, CTMs, as we now call them, collaborative team meetings, that actually address, and Mr. McMickle, I don't need to rehash what he said, but as you can imagine, it's been, and the feedback we've received are for teachers. If you think about that third grade team across the district, right, every third grade teacher across the district, being able to come into a space in a highly facilitated discussion to say what's working, what's not, along this continuum of what are we doing about student engagement? What has worked? What hasn't? And really, these are highly skilled professionals who are coming together and identifying, for a term we like to use in education, the best practices given this time, and it really helps in their connectivity as well.
So, question, comment, whatever, Adam, Chad. So, what are we learning through this that we can keep track of? I remember at our USBA, Lieutenant Governor made I don't remember the number of tests that we had to, or reports we had to fill out for the state. And so obviously, tomorrow will be a different day and different experience. What are we learning that's so well that we could potentially go back to them and say, take a 0 off those number of tests, because what we're finding out that is working is this. Does that make sense?
I think so, and as we look at what is required of us through statute, if I'm hearing that, and the reports that we're giving, is there latitude, given how we operate perhaps a little bit differently moving into the future?
Yeah,
that we can
potentially
review.
latitude, or actually it'll get a hold of someone to say, you guys can get rid of a number of tests at the next legislature session, to say some of these things we're doing more effectively, we found out through what we're doing now. Does that make sense?
Say more, if you don't mind, on tests. What do you mean by
They're
that?
learning-
I mean, tests
They're
are,
learning without having to be tested.
yeah, all the statutes, all the requirements, all the reports, all of those things that keep coming down that, I mean, there are people out there that are saying, oh my heavens, where there's so much, let us teach. It appears like we're really getting into,
You're talking results.
we're focusing on the things, the rubber's hitting the road here under these unique times, that potentially this could be something we're gonna learn from it. That, is that catching my drift?
Yeah, I do. I believe, given our experience in other schools, districts across the state, to that point, I had a meeting with the State Board of Education, and the other superintendents were part of that meeting. And we discussed what is that, and Superintendent Dixon calls the new future, right? We have a new now, that's not gonna, it's certainly not a new normal, but what does the new future look like that addresses those types of things?
Yeah.
So the State Board had a meeting today, as part of their regular sessions. We know the legislature was in special session, and they actually waived a lot of things already that have been required given the circumstances that I believe will find their way into the next session as we are active participants in helping define the new future.
But we're obviously finding out things that are working well today, and hopefully we're documenting all of that when the time comes. These are the things that we found worked well for our students and their parents and our faculty. Okay.
Yeah, certainly.
And I
This is Jeremy.
have a
Jeremy.
question.
Jeremy, then Nancy. Jeremy, what's up?
Do you plan on surveying the parents and teachers again so that you see improvement in some of these engagement numbers, or a decrease in students without internet, or tools and technology eventually working better? It'd be helpful to see maybe a second survey.
Okay. Great question, and suggestion, Board Member Shinoda. We do. I mean, as we consider where it is we're right now, there are some short-term things that, yes, a follow-up would be after we have applied these interventions, how well, or resources, how well they're working. But I'd also say to the couple instances that you brought up, what does that long-term look like, even past COVID-19? To those same questions, as we roll out different technology initiatives, whether it be one-to-one or some online learning modules, or right, as necessity has become the mother of acceleration. We knew we were moving in that direction anyway. This has accelerated that pace. And yes, to that point, we want to make sure that whatever obstacles exist post-COVID-19 that we're still addressing, and we would solicit that information in not only the near future, but the not so distant future either, the longer term.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Can I make a comment on that as well?
Please.
Just along the lines of both of those things. So the student survey that we will be giving 3 times between now and the end of this school year does ask one of those same questions. We will have some ongoing data from our student perspective as far as usage and SEL pieces. But then along the lines of the documentation and what we're learning, again, we are documenting all of our SEL type interventions that are occurring. Panorama, as we were prior, but under home study intervention. And we'll be able to connect that with the data that's being collected through the student surveys also within Panorama, to where really we can monitor unprecedented intervention through those 2 pieces, to where we'll really be able to come back and say this type of intervention when run with this type of risk factor made this difference. So not so much an academic base, but definitely on that SEL base, we'll be able to identify things that we would have never been able to do as far as what's effective for certain risk factors in this situation.
Thank you.
And Rich, if I can chime in.
Please.
In response to the question about, are we documenting and what kind of conversations may come out of this as we learn best practices, we know that our teachers and our students and our parents are going to walk away from this saying, man, that distance learning experience was exceptional to what we would normally get in the classroom. What I am seeing, though, and what we're hearing about in the CTMs, and we really certainly want to document and save for later, is the honing of these practices both at home and from the teacher's perspective, and noting that as we return to hopefully normal operations come the fall, that we have improved our skill set in this distance learning space so we can expand the classroom better. So it can be a nice complementary piece to what we're normally doing and where we really had the previous skill set in meeting the students' needs in that face-to-face environment. So I believe that we are going to be vastly improved in our overall comprehensive supports of our students moving into next year, because the distance learning can be a nice complement to the ongoing operations in the building. And I'm excited about that. We are also noting, though, when you bring up assessments, the things that are exceptionally challenging in a distance learning environment. And to be honest, you can capture a lot of evidence of student learning, even at a distance, but that independent work and really capturing proficiency at the student level is very challenging. And I'm sure that's going to lead to a lot of conversations, either at the state level and the local level, about what should we do in the distance environment, what should we try to just improve in the face-to-face environment as well.
Nancy, then back to Rich.
Okay, maybe this is for Adam. I was just wondering, I know that it's an obstacle to teaching with the reduced student engagement, but do we actually know the percentage of the students that are logging in and participating? And do we know, are we identifying those that are not? I mean, are there some out there that are not?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and just to expand on that, and that's been a tremendous effort at the school level, again, led out by our administrators. And in the partnership with our student achievement team and others, we have clearly identified the reports that we have access to in our digital platforms. We have quickly helped our admins and teachers make sense of those reports, so they know what they're looking at and so they don't also make the mistake of overgeneralizing what those reports mean. So what do pages mean? We use Canvas as our learning management system in the secondary schools. One of the reports you can see page views, when the students accessed their most recent access, you can see the student progress. So making sense so we know exactly what we're looking at, and then we can triangulate that data with their other efforts outside of those digital platforms. They're having their staff all hands on deck, communicating and contacting with the students and their parents, and then also with the home visits, bringing all that together to provide that more comprehensive view of what student engagement is. But to your, the short of it is, yes, we know exactly who's logging in and how often those students are, when the typical patterns of them engaging in those platforms are. Is it early in the morning? Is it mid-afternoon? We have access to that data, and our building leaders are really driving those conversations and the work to respond to that data in the buildings.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to that end, as our administrators and our teachers and our counselors, everything that was just said, it really is all hands on deck. So it really is, for those that are engaging, fantastic. What is that learning experience like for those that aren't? We're not leaving any stone unturned in how we seek to engage them. So it is, it's all hands on deck. Positive outcomes of teaching remotely from the faculty respondents. About 28% felt like there was improved communication from their building principal in this environment. About another 26% said improved district communication, given the circumstance. We did about 18% improved relationships with colleagues as they've been able to collaborate perhaps maybe a little bit differently than they have in the past. And some teachers had seen about an 19% increased family engagement. As we partner with families, how are the families engaging a little bit differently? And it is being noticed by teachers, by us, that we're seeing families perhaps engaging a little bit different in their children's education for this experience. Personal obstacles. I'll just say this, we are an organization, and as an organization we're made of people, and our people are intensely dedicated and committed to the well-being of their students in the community. With that being said though, as people, they're not immune, none of us are, to the effects, the stresses, the anxieties associated with our current conditions. And so we wanted to know, under that talent development anchor, how are our people doing? How is their well-being? As you can see, there's been, among the respondents, about a 32% are experiencing increased anxiety given the conditions. 20% are feeling more isolated for this experience. About a 24% are feeling overwhelmed with trying to balance the responsibilities at home, especially those that have children in the home. Now their children are home, they're trying to help with home learning, but also balance the demands of work. And we have about 12% that are worrying about basic needs of their personal lives being covered. With that being said, very proud of how our Human Resources Department has partnered and offered different services. Ms. Bennington, if you wouldn't mind explaining a little bit about what our approach is to helping our own staff through this effort on a personal level.
Yeah, and this is with a lot of collaboration and connection with the SEL anchor as well, with Aspen and her team. Our anchors go hand in hand. As you see, everything blends together. So this is also including their expertise. But what we're looking at is we always have had not always, but for several years, we've had our employee assistance program, which is a free program to employees and their families so that they can get some support with counseling services. What has happened now with COVID-19 and looking at this survey data, is they're providing additional workshops and sessions to help our employees in these areas. For example, they've been leading groups, and some of their classes, all of the classes they cap at 215. Some of those classes have maxed out at 215. They've been full. So that goes to show that across northern Utah, lots of people are participating and recognizing that they need some help with their anxiety and isolation and work balance. With that, some of the classes are distressing thoughts, how to thrive, not just survive. That was a popular one. Leadership during COVID-19. So those who are leading their faculties and staff, that plays a heavy burden on them as well. And so there's some sessions and classes that they can take on how do they take care of themselves, plus demonstrate leadership during this time. Another piece I love is they've broken off and done some workshops specific to kids. So families, our employees can have their kids take part of some workshops and sessions, and then parents, they are doing some parenting classes on how do you parent during these times and make sure that you're taking care of yourself and also helping your children who are going to have anxiety and all of that and feed off of what you're doing. The next step, so that's our Bloom Please Tell, our employee assistance program, but throughout just our school district too, we're running some small group sessions with our district therapists and some large group sessions. They've been looking at mindset and resilience and how to make it through these times and work together and what they can learn. Our district specialists, our SEL specialists, and our counseling specialists, they're leading learning groups. Some of those learning groups include grief, how to calm down, just simple strategies to calm down, stress in your body, how to recognize those pieces and move forward with that. And then how to gain perspective, because of too often people get stuck in the news and what's all over the newspapers, and how do they gain perspective and sift through all of that information to make sense. We have licensed help therapists as well, and they're running some forums to discuss pressing issues with anxiety, isolation, and again, that work-life balance, which we're seeing is huge. Any questions on those classes that we're offering or Bloom Quiz Hell is offering? And then I've got two more things I want to celebrate that we're doing.
Do you need more
Jessica, this is...
Go ahead, Joyce.
Not so much on the classes. I'm just wondering, are any of the faculty members actually teaching from the school, from remote sites also?
So we have it going on both ways, but for the majority, they're typically filming things and then showing that. Recently, they have been doing some video conferencing. Some are doing that from home. I have heard some going into the schools just because of connectivity. So at home, they might be dropping or glitching out. And so sometimes they'll go into the schools to have better Wi-Fi service. Adam, do you have anything different in that area?
No, Jessica, I think you covered it all.
Okay. All right. So
Go ahead. Any other comments, first of all? All right, carry on.
All right. So the next piece is we're looking at the work-life balance. So we have the survey data, but we also have our employee time clock where they log in online, or it's all online. And what we're finding there is we have very, very honest employees, which is a huge celebration. And I believe that we've always known that about our employees. What we're finding, though, is through that time clock system, when you pull reports, you can see that several employees will go to make themselves some tea and they'll clock out for 3 minutes, come back and clock back in. They don't want to feel like they are taking money from the district, but they're also needing to, of course, take care of themselves or help a child with a math problem. So what we're going to do, and this is new, we haven't rolled it out to our employees yet, but we are going to offer up to 3 additional personal days to all of our employees, no matter what their position is or how many hours they work, up to 3 personal days so that they don't need to worry about that piece. If they have something they need to take care of at home, they don't need to worry about clocking out and then clocking back in. We trust our employees. We believe that they're going to do a good job, and we're seeing that they're doing a good job. And so with that, we're going to make sure that they feel honored with that time and they don't need to have that as an added stress. All right, any questions?
I love that. Great.
One piece of that, and we had to figure out, what does this mean? What does this look like? Usually when you give days of leave, you put that into a system and people have to go in and mark and request to have time off. But again, what we decided in this piece with these 3 personal days, this is on the professional honor system. They're not going to need to worry about doing that and seeking that approval from their supervisor. They'll need to let their supervisor know if they're going to take more than an hour or 2 off, so the supervisor's aware, but they don't need to worry about all of the other little pieces or logging it into a time clock system.
Thank you, Ms. Bennington, and just to further stress that, we feel so grateful that we've been able to continue to pay our employees when so many different organizations or enterprises have not been able to do that, and we're grateful also to the state board for allowing that to happen, allow those funds to come. But at the same time, and given what we're learning in terms of our employees' experiences, is they may need a few extra days themselves, just for whatever it is that they need to take care of. And so we feel like in honoring them and hopefully reducing additional burden or stress or anxiety, we're providing additional resources to help them do that, which is we really want, and not only say but communicate through our actions that we value our employees and all the work that they're doing. So,
Jessica, would more chocolate help?
For me or for everybody?
Yeah.
For everybody, yes.
Yeah.
Good. That concludes really the high points of the survey. If board members, if you have any other questions or comments that you would like to make as a matter of those results, this will be shared and uploaded into our board book. But as I consider celebrations, I think the celebration in it, one is the fact that we have been able to make that transition on such a short timetable to be able to reach into the homes meaningfully, be a support to parents by providing educational resources, academic resources primarily, social emotional resources, and child nutrition resources at the ready. And it's been a significant task, and everyone has risen to the challenge and has put together something that is, given the circumstances, pretty special to be able to make those shifts. It has, of course, as you redefine as an organization how you provide your services, it's caused a lot of late nights, early mornings, but we have the dedicated staff and the expertise within our district to be able to do that. And so we applaud the effort of all those that have been able to deliver on such short notice in this way. So that's the celebration, but also to tailor it into these surveys is to find out how well we were doing in that effort. And a lot of things were affirming, and there were, as you can see, some additional obstacles or barriers that we need to seek to overcome and will as we further refine our process. So with that, Board President concludes my celebrations unless there are questions or comments.
If not, let's move forward. Thank you, Dr. Nye. It's now necessary for us to vote on our consent calendar at this time. There was that one adjustment of moving item 10B from increasing student achievement up to our consent calendar. So for Paula's sake, I'll ask for a motion. If you'll please state the name of who wants to approve our consent calendar and the name on who seconded, and then when it comes time to vote, we will do a voice vote first, so she'll know all who voted for it. So is there a motion at this time to accept this month's consent calendar with that one item noted?
So moved.
So moved. This is Susan Richards.
Susan made the motion, Nancy seconded. Those in favor, Don says yes.
Aye.
Jeremy said yes.
Doug
says yes.
Jennifer, Doug, Nancy,
Aye.
Joyce,
Aye.
all right. So did you get that, Paula?
Yes, I have it. Thank you.
Okay, all right, good. When it comes time to make some other motions and approvals here in a minute, we'll follow the same format. Superintendent, back to you for your report, and including in that would be?
Administrative appointments.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for your unanimous support, excuse me, missing my water, but unanimous support for the consent calendar for lots of different reasons, but primarily the thing that I'd like to highlight at the moment were the 3 administrative appointments that you just approved. I thank you for that, and would just like to touch base on each one of those appointments and allow those that have been appointed just a couple minutes to express some thoughts regarding this new journey that they're about to embark on in these new positions. First, Nicole Lovell. She has been an administrative intern at Lincoln this last year and has served to fill in for admins at various schools throughout this year. She has just done a tremendous job, and she successfully interviewed and accepted the position as assistant principal at Newbridge Elementary. She will join Ms. Buki, and will just create such a solid team there at Newbridge as they further the effort at that elementary, complementing that team, and really just a welcome addition. We appreciate her service to the Ogden School District. She's been with the Ogden School District for about 10 years. She can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but a hearty congratulations to Ms. Lovell, and if you wouldn't mind, Nicole, just saying a few words or thoughts in this new appointment.
I just want to say thank you to the board for approving this shift in position. Education is a second career for me, and it has all been in Ogden School District. My children attend Ogden School District schools, and I am thrilled about this opportunity. I am excited to join Janice Buki and her team at Newbridge and to continue to learn and grow in my career with Ogden. So thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Aspen Henderson. Miss Henderson, she's been with the district for about 6 years. Prior to coming to the district, she spent 10 years as, I believe, a special education teacher in an elementary. She has been serving for us recently as the supervisor in our student advocacy services department. As we have built out what it means to have a comprehensive behavioral support system in our district, we've made significant investments over the last few years in this effort. Ms. Henderson has been at the forefront of those efforts, and as the nature and responsibilities of the position has changed, it's become necessary to adjust that position given the responsibilities. So we congratulate Ms. Henderson as the director of Student Advocacy Services. Ms. Henderson, if you wouldn't mind saying a few words as well.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Dr. Knight. I just really, again, want to thank the board for approving that appointment. And I want to thank Ogden leadership just for the opportunity that I've had since I joined Ogden, and for the latitude and some of the crazy ideas and things that we've implemented through Ogden. I don't think that could have been done any other place. And I also just want to say I have the very best, and I'm beyond grateful for them every single day. I come to work and am amazed at the passion that my team has for the work that we do. And then last and most importantly, the students that we serve. I'm in Ogden by choice. I love Ogden School District. I love the student population and the families that we get to be a part of their story. And I just fully believe in everything that we're doing, and everything that we're passionate about what's happening in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. And last but not least, Luke Rasmussen has been appointed as Executive Director of Secondary Schools. In his role at Ogden High, it's just been a tremendous influence in his tenure there. Between his experience in Ogden and his experience in the district, in Davis district that he came from. He's one of our most tenured and successful building administrators in the Ogden School District. And we look forward to, as you know, at Ogden High, in his tenure and under his leadership, Ogden High grew by almost 14 points in their graduation rate, where we were at about 76% when he entered to this last year, with graduating just a little bit north of 90% of students graduating. And that's come under the team he's built, under his leadership, faculty and staff that he's been able to put together and lead, and with their support. So we look forward to Mr. Rasmussen being able to exert that influence across all of our secondary schools, and we're excited for the leadership that he'll bring to the district office. Mr. Rasmussen, if you wouldn't mind saying a few remarks as well, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I want to thank the superintendent and the Board of Education. I want to thank you guys for this opportunity and trusting in me for this opportunity. I really want to thank my faculty and staff. I never would have had this opportunity if it wasn't for the great people that I work with. I firmly believe that you're only as good as those that you surround yourself with. I really want to thank the community at Ogden High School. I felt embraced from them from day one. They're so supportive. They're fun to work with. Their engagement has been second to none. I really want to thank the students. I love those students. That's probably going to be the hardest thing for me. We have amazing students in our district and in our school and in my school. But I take comfort in knowing that I'll still be able to impact students through working with the great administrators that we have in our district as well. So I'm excited for the opportunity, in most part because I get to continue to be a part of the Ogden High community, and I also get to expand my impact to all the secondary schools and students in the district. I get the opportunity to work directly with some of the best administrators in the state. That being said, we made some good gains at Ogden High School, and I'm really confident about the foundation of the school and where it's at because of the great people that are there, both in leadership currently and in the classroom in our extracurricular positions. And I'm confident that school is going to continue to grow. It's in a good place, and it's going to continue to have an upward trajectory. I'm just really proud to be a part of the school district. I love Ogden School District. I'm loyal to Ogden School District, and I just really appreciate this opportunity and look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rasmussen, and thank you all under different circumstances, we'd have you here and be able to congratulate you in person and a hearty handshake and a few pictures to boot. That'll have to wait, but we're excited for each of you and that journey and the leadership and the talents that you bring each and every day to the benefit of the Ogden School District. So thank you for that, and thank you, Board, for that approval. And Board President, turn the time back to you.
Okay, and I'm going to head right back at you because I see Superintendent's Report, item 6.
All right.
I just served that ball right back.
You did. I was hoping for at least a pause to pull this back up and start presenting my screen again, which I will do right now. Okay. Just wanted to take a minute and give a high-level overview. We're giving Ken and Darwin and our friends at BDK a break, and I'm just going to do a quick overview of the monthly report, knowing that we'll do a more detailed report in an upcoming study session. But the bond program monthly report, our construction efforts, first of all, I want to applaud our partners in how they are maintaining a safe workspace under COVID-19. As you can see, they're taking social distancing, cleanliness, aseptic techniques very seriously in their efforts, and we'll be able to highlight some pictures here in just a moment that demonstrate their effort in that. So we want them to stay as healthy as can be for a lot of different reasons, but we appreciate their diligence and commitment to keep our projects on schedule in this environment, but not at the sacrifice of their well-being and their health. So just a few updates here. There's a picture of Wasatch Elementary. This is a debriefing. I mean, you see some people sitting down, but they're actually social distancing at this point and doing a debrief before they engage in some work. And so just the different work with different contractors coming in, again, maintaining those safe procedures. But this is a Wasatch Elementary. It's just some updates there. You see this is in the board backup, but you can see it's progressing nicely and is expected to be completed in July. And we'll be able to move our students quickly into Wasatch while we close Polk. As you already heard from Mr. Crawford, some good news there when it comes to the bids. We're right on track to start the Polk project, and as these things have a tendency or a necessity of dovetailing one with another, Wasatch will open wonderful because Polk's closing, and so we can stay on task and stay on time. Just a couple pictures, if you haven't driven by there lately. All these pictures are taken about 3 weeks ago. If you were to drive by again today, or even this weekend, they don't look like this anymore.
Not at all.
So the rapidity and the rapid nature of how fast these projects are coming together is impressive. It's inspiring. So while these are pictures right now, they would look a little bit different, but Wasatch, you can see, is coming along very nicely and hence on time. Just a couple number of pictures of different efforts there. This is in the new section as they start working on that internal structure. Those learning stairs, windows, that's the existing. This was in the existing space, if I'm not mistaken. Ken, Zane, you can probably correct me on this. I believe this was the old media center.
No, this is just one of the classrooms down the hallway leading to the new addition.
Excellent, fantastic. Thanks for the correction. So top to bottom, inside, and out to the new full-scale remodel. Will be a wonderful facility. Horace Mann Elementary, we broke ground on that, but there's a lot of things going on over there. And so as we look at that progressing, just a few pictures here, an aerial view. That used to be the play field and basketball courts and things like that. Anyway, construction is well underway. Just an overview of an outline on the existing plat. Working on footings, again, just moving right along in that effort. A retaining wall that's on that north side, correct if I'm wrong, USDB, or the Utah School for Deaf and Blind, is just to the northwest that area. But given the difference in the grade, a retaining wall is necessary, and you can see that's well underway. Polk Elementary, you heard an update there. We've received well, an update from Mr. Crawford regarding that already, but we do hope to break some ground soon in June. All things come together, we'll be meeting there. Hopefully we can all meet together there. If not, we'll work on a virtual groundbreaking or whatever that may look like. But something to celebrate nonetheless. Just might look a little different under the circumstances. Just a sketch, an architect's rendering of what that new building looked like. You can see the 1926 portion there. Nice segue, blending some modern and traditional to the new section of the addition.
That red car is Nancy driving home.
Whizzing home, yeah.
Okay.
That looks a little fast. It's blurred. I mean, come on, school zone.
I know. Okay.
It'll be a wonderful compliment to the community. There's and you've seen this picture before, what that looks like as an aerial view of that footprint. T.O. Smith Elementary also moving along, and a timeline there. Given where T.O. Smith Elementary is and these other projects, again, putting together more of a timeline with some more information to come regarding its progress at a future work session. Value engineering session, just some numbers there. That's hard to read, but if you want to get into that, I'll allow Ken and Darwin and Chris to walk you through some of that information. And again, an architecture rendering of what T.O. Smith might look like. Chris likes to include a Hall of Shame spotlight. If you can see those pictures, those are eye wash stations and what is that? The hazmat shower station. Seems to be occupied with other gear right now. I appreciate the Hall of Shame. As a former science teacher, you would not allow this, working with beakers of chemicals. But anyway, as soon as it's noticed, it's certainly addressed. So appreciate the pictures and some levity there that carries with it a safety recognition that are being addressed. So appreciate that. That's the bond update. Any questions that I could answer there, and or questions of Ken or Zane, or I don't know if Darwin's online, but anything that comes top of mind as we review that.
And we haven't had any problems because of the COVID-19 with the construction?
So it's going to be hard to tell what that long-term looks like. As of right now, we've been able to have crews on site, maintaining social distancing, and the health of their employees is of much concern as ours are to us.
Right.
But with that being said, they have healthy crews, and at the moment it doesn't appear that there's been any delays that I've heard of. I don't know, Zane, if you've heard of any.
Talked to Mason this afternoon at Wasatch. They did have to do some juggling with one sub. They had someone that hasn't slowed them down. So.
All right.
This is Joyce.
Okay.
So have the aftershocks raised any concerns about, especially Wasatch?
To my knowledge, we have not seen any, again, damage to our projects, given, as Board Member Blair pointed out, 1,200 aftershocks in the last month. Thankfully, I have not been privy to any reports of damage as a result of those.
Well, the 4.2s, the two of them they were the biggest.
Yeah.
So, aftershock.
I know the maintenance department has been vigilant to check the facilities, and to here so far, no problems. No structural damage.
Good. Anything else?
Oh, that's it.
All right. Zane, we'll turn this time over to you for our BA report.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple of things. I did take the liberty on my way into the office this afternoon of stopping by and walking through the Wasatch Project. So the classroom that Ken was referring to up there, that whole hallway, the hallway going south into the new facility is carpeted now. And they're doing a lot of painting, very busy. Most of the brick, exterior brick is on. So you don't see any white anymore. And it looks really nice. So it's come along well, according to the supervisor. I had a couple of questions this last week that I thought I'd share with the board. One had to do with the bond market and what we anticipate that's going to look like. I inquired of our financial advisor, Dell Okerlund, and I have an official response that I'll send out to all of you. It's in financial advisor speak. But the bottom line is, there have been some things going on in the bond market. And really, it's hard to say at this point what things are going to look like in October. But I anticipate that we're going to be in a good position when we go to issue the next issue of bonds. That we won't be paying any more because of what's going on right now. But their last caveat is, time will tell, and they aren't going to make any commitments at this point. They said, if we had that crystal ball, you couldn't afford us. So, but that's the bottom line on that. There's been a little bit of concern about the budget for the current year and next year. I don't anticipate any problems with the current year budget. What happens next year, there are two pieces of the puzzle. One of them has to do with the property tax values and the money that we receive through property tax collections. Well, those values, and therefore the tax rate, are based on market values as of the 1st of January. And that was all pre-COVID-19 situation. And so I don't foresee any negative impact to property tax values for the coming year as far as our budget goes. If, for whatever reason, those values dropped or were less this year than they were last year, the rate goes up because of the certified tax rate. So we should be able to hold fast on the property tax. The other piece of the budget of what's going on with the minimum school program. As you know, the legislature approved a 6% increase to the WPU. In my mind, that's all in limbo at this point. And so until the legislature settles through these special sessions that the superintendent mentioned, we've kind of put everything on hold as far as that goes, and I'm not getting overly anxious to make any projections of what that might look like. And so we've kind of put everything on hold with our negotiations. The other thing, I had a question, there was some question about, well, what was the capacity of our old facilities and what are these new schools' capacity going to be? That kind of came up as a result of a public hearing that the city had this past week regarding an apartment complex that's going in up here on Canyon Road on the north side of the road up by the power plant or by the power station. And so I put some numbers together that I thought I'd share with you. I had Jer respond to an inquiry from Greg Montgomery from the city about how we thought these new buildings would accommodate growth and things like that. So here are some numbers you can write down. If you want, I have a spreadsheet I could forward out to all of you. But if you look at Wasatch and you take into account the portables that were in place at the time, we projected the enrollment capacity of that school prior to this renovation of being 516 students. The new facility, based on 28 students per general ed classroom and not taking into account special ed classrooms or any other workspaces or lab spaces, just looking at general ed classrooms, that school should accommodate 588 students, so that's an increase of 72 of what we had before. If you look at Horace Mann, with portables, the capacity of that school was at 679. The new facility will be able to accommodate 840. That's an increase of 161 students. If you look at the Polk Elementary, the capacity with portables before was 651. The capacity of this new facility will actually be less, 616 we predict, so 35 fewer students. And then the T.O. Smith School, there were a lot of portables up there, and if you count those portables, the capacity for that school was 733. The new facility's capacity will be 644, so technically 89 students less. But that's the information I had to share with the board tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a shout.
Thank you. Okay, Steph, any comments from anybody? If not, then we will move forward with our committee reports. Policy, law, Joyce, student achievement, Jan, budget, finance, Doug. Take it away, Joyce.
Okay, policy and law met last Thursday, and we did discuss 3 different policies. One that was brought up by a member regarding electronic meetings. And as you can see in the board packet, the items in red are what we've adjusted to that policy. That we would have a presence in an anchor location unless state code or different circumstances rolled against that. And the additional comment was regarding electronic meetings was also to include our work sessions, just to have all of our bases covered. And the other policy that we discussed was junior high athletics. Brought to our attention that the way the policy was written, that if a 9th grader tried out for a high school team and didn't make it, they had no options of playing on the junior high teams. So we've made a slight adjustment there to include them in also the junior high teams. Then.
Board President. Joyce, if I may,
Yes.
or Board Member Wilson.
Yes.
Just a little more context. I know this has come up before the board a few times over the years as we strike that balance and as we look at UHSA and what's allowed and what's not. It's changed over the few years, and so reached out to Ken and Jethro and the secondary building principals to get their take on this. Ken was able to provide a little more insight from his experience back in the day. Ken was here where some of the other administrators weren't the last time it was discussed. I was really trying to find and strike a balance. The way it was currently written now was really trying to address, at one point, 9th graders were not allowed to go up to the high schools and play. And then it was changed to if ninth graders could compete at the varsity level, then they could go up to the high school and play. And then it was if they could compete at the ninth grade at any level in the high schools, then they go up there. And it was decided at that point with that board and per the recommendation at that time that the ninth graders, their option was the high school and not so much the junior high. And there's pros and cons associated with both of those moves. Joyce, you brought up one of the issues that has turned into a kind of a con. Some of the building administrators brought up some pros. I just, in terms of context, we'll more than likely have some more ninth graders playing at the junior high level, and that might be for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe they did get cut from the team. Maybe their parents feel like they're not developmentally ready for competition at the high school, and so that allows them the opportunity. But that doesn't necessarily come without its consequence either, where if you have more ninth graders playing at that in the junior high, maybe some seventh graders aren't going to have an opportunity to compete. Which is a reality, and we can explore different possibilities to help mitigate against that. If there's, I know some districts will like do a seventh grade redshirt year where they're still part of the team, they're still practicing, they're still learning. But when it comes to the day of competition, it really is the eighth and ninth graders. Hard to say at the moment how many ninth graders might take advantage of still playing in the junior high. As you can imagine, there is some something special, I think, or some preference maybe for a ninth grader if they're able to make a team in the high school. That's kind of the direction it's going. They want to be there more so perhaps than the junior high, but that's still to be determined. But back, it sounds like it didn't always used to be that way. So that's a little bit harder to tell. Speaking with the administrators, building administrators, they all give a positive nod in this move, just for additional context, saying this per the parent choice, per the student athlete's choice, and given some of the efforts that the high school coaches are making to better align with what's occurring in the junior high sports and being able to monitor everything from grades to talent development. It's been realized a little bit differently, I would say, in the last few years than it has before. But to that end, just wanted to make sure that the board knew Ken may have some additional information they'd like to share if I didn't cover the context that he has. But as we discussed in policy and law, it seems like at the moment it gives the choice back to the student athlete, it gives the choice back to the parents, and it places a greater onus on us to make sure that we're following those students that are participating in ninth grade and their progress toward graduation. So just a little more context.
Back to you, Joyce.
And also at the end of that, I'm getting feedback. Also at the end of that policy, we cleaned up a little bit regarding cheerleading at the junior high level. One little paragraph that really we just determined what's not necessary. And I'm sorry, was that all that we discussed? I know we talked a little bit about fundraising and student fees, fee waivers.
If there's no other questions or comments, Joyce,
Yeah.
Is that good then for your report?
Yes.
Fantastic. We'll vote on that action item here in a minute regarding the things you discussed. Jennifer,
Okay.
Student achievement. Jennifer, can you hear us?
Sorry, I have to unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Good. Okay. The Student Achievement Committee met last week in a virtual meeting. We discussed some coming domino effects of Polk closing and moving students to Wasatch and Baylor Canyon. We're still waiting a lot of information that the superintendent is gathering from the city, from district, lots more information to come and some decisions board members will have to make. Some Wasatch parents have that the Polk Enrichment Program, acronym PEP program, follow their students back to Wasatch. The board is going to receive a refresh on the PEP program that has existed at Polk Elementary for the past several years. And the thought was brought up that if the Wasatch community wants to do something in that area, then the Wasatch community as a whole should come together and come up with whatever niche they want to have for their school. And if it comes to the point that they've decided on something that they need board approval for, we can address it at that time. But as far as several items of things that they might want to do don't necessarily take board approval. So the committee is recommending that the school communities get together and decide what they want for their school. But that being that the PEP program is the Polk Enrichment Program, that it would probably be best for that specific program to follow the students to Taylor Canyon, and then when they return to Polk. So we will be getting a refresher presentation about the PEP program in the future. We received an anonymous letter about student behavior in one of our schools. It's very difficult to respond to anonymous letters, but a response was written with the help of Aspen Henderson, and I believe it was sent to the school. We've also discussed in the committee about how we could address that more broadly with parents, perhaps in the community councils as well as PTAs. I'm sure that some concerns that were raised in the letter were not isolated, where parents and schools are seeing some of these issues nationwide. So we do have a good system in place to address behavior issues in our schools, and communicating that to parents and that kind of thing would be important for us to do, so we can do that more effectively. And then we had some information on the COVID-19 update, and Rich did a wonderful job earlier in this meeting going over that information. So that is all I have from the SAC committee.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions or comments from board members? Thank you. If not, we'll move right on to Doug, our budget and finance.
Well, this time, because of what's been going on, we're going to meet at Wasatch. As you understand, that ain't going to happen. Good job with what he was talking about there with the different projects going on. They can to give us an update on to bring up, unless Zane handled all of it. So.
Okay, thank you. I did get a chance to drive by all the projects the other day, and including Ben Lomond, and boy, Ben Lomon's coming along real well, it's real nice as well. So good, thank you, Doug. We had no one sign up for public participation virtually, so we're addressing that as we have some things coming up in the near future, i.e. boundaries, and a nice way to, effective way to get public input. But for right now, we have nothing to report with that. So item 10 is increasing student achievement. We have, remember 10B was moved up consent calendar. We'll now go to 10A, information item, our annual TSSA school success plan. So I believe we'll turn the time over now to JM.
Thank you, Don. I'm going to try to present my screen here. Just a second.
And when she's through, we will need motions to approve that like we just did earlier. So kind of a voice vote for tonight.
Okay, hopefully, I'm trying to get to the right. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Can tell me, are you able to see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted, as promised, we have an update of the action step progress or goal progress for our 2019-20 school success plans. And I want to start, before I give you that status update, I'd like to give you just a quick review about the amazing work that our site administrators did in leading their school leadership teams and their community councils and analyzing their progress on their action steps. We reminded and took our principals back and reminded them of what is the criteria of an evidence-based practice, that there are 3 tier levels, and we were excited to announce that in our Nexus Elevated Strategic Plan, all of our action steps and all of the programs and items in that meet the criteria that is set by the ESSA Act, so we're very proud of that. We also reminded our principals and took them through a 5-step approach to implement evidence-based practices. And it's really basically good data analysis. So the first step is you inform your teams, you analyze your local needs and what your focus has been, and you adjust your focus based upon your data. You identify, examine, and select the evidence-based practices. So after you've looked at your data, what are your needs, then before you take action, you need to investigate the best practices. And like we've said before, our Nexus Elevated Strategic Plan is a great starting place. Then the team begins to plan. They develop implementation strategies to adopt. They identify which ones best fit their needs, and they begin to identify the actions they'll take. Then they go with implementation, step 4, where they begin to implement everything they decided and put into their plan. And then they analyze, where they conduct analysis of their data, and the cycle starts all over again. So that's the process that all of our teams are utilizing throughout the whole school year. So our school success plan is just not a document that sits innovation. It's a living, breathing document that guides our actions and what our everyday actions in our schools. So now we're at our goal action step status. What we asked our teams to do is the step 5, analyze. We wanted to have them take a look, and this is all before COVID-19 hit. We asked them to take a look at all of their present action steps in their school success plan with their teams and identify the status of the progress with that. So they provided them with this document. I'm going to make it just a little bit. As you can see, there's a tab for each school site. And what I did is I took all of their action steps and all the details surrounding the action steps from their school plan innovation, and I put them in this document. It gives the title, the description, who would lead, the start date, end date, focus areas, their desired impact, their measurement tool, and then and the intervals that they were going to work at it. But here's the important element that we added. For every single action step, as they did an analysis of where they were at, they could select one of the 5 categories, either completed, not started, started but behind, which meant not on track for timely completion, on track for completion on time, or discontinued. Because sometimes the action step they thought was a good focus, their data is telling them that was probably not something that they should continue the rest of the year. Okay, here. So here is the results. Now I want to make a note that the document that you received in your packet has been updated because we had 3 sites, Mount Ogden, Forest Man, and their teams were not quite yet finished in designating the status. So I updated that today. because they were all completed. And so the graphs on this PowerPoint are updated from the ones that are in your packet, and I'll make sure that Paula gets the PDF of the updated version. So the first slide here is as an entire district, all of the action steps. And as you can see, it's color coded, not started, started but behind, which is not on track for completion on time, completed, discontinued, and status not identified. For the entire district, the great news is 80 action steps have been completed, 184 action steps are on track for completion on time. Even now, although we've adjusted to digital learning, we're still on track for completion. 72 action steps have been started, but they are behind. 6 were not started. 28 were discontinued, and there's still a few that are not identified. And here are all of our goals. And I won't go through one of them, but that's all of them. We have a lot. It tells you how Heritage has been a lot completed, have a lot of actions that are completed. That stands out. But every school does have green, which is very exciting. And please feel free to ask me any questions as you're looking at that data. I'll give you another moment to just take a look at that. Do you have any questions on what you're seeing right there regarding our elementary school?
Do these show the reflections of any updates as well?
Yes, they are live documents, and so I checked and made any adjustments today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. This is our junior high status. And Mount Ogden Junior High just has one action step that has not been designated the status in which is the area of it, but all the other ones have. Any questions regarding our junior high? Even though Mount Ogden has one action step that hasn't, which their team has not designated their status, they have a significant number of their action steps that have been completed, which is exciting. And now this is our high schools. I'd like to note that there's not any high schools that have failed to identify the status of any of their action steps. Every action step has been accounted for. And as you can see, Ben Lomond High School is leading the way in the number of action steps that have been completed. Ogden High is also strong. And George Washington, it's exciting. They don't have as many completed, but they have a lot of action steps that are on track for completion on time, which is very exciting, as well as male education. So those are all of our school sites. Do you have any questions that have arisen?
Board members, any questions? If not, thanks, Jane.
I'd like to just make note that because of this work and our change in status, our schools really liked how instead of originally in our ovation plan, the status of the action step when we started the year was completed or not completed. But as we continued this work, I proposed to them that we utilize these 6 areas and really like that. So we'll be working with Casey to make that change for the upcoming school plan. And what's amazing about that is that's a live document, but throughout the year, the action step will change status as they review it in the specified interval time. And I'd like to make note that thank you for putting all the school land trust plan. This year, we are very excited to state that every single goal that is included in the individual site land trust plan will be action step in the success plan. So they'll be 100% aligned this year. And we also had members of Adam's team, Andrea Thompson and Katie Scott, join our land trust review team today this year. All of the goals in our land trust plan are based upon data and are achievable and challenging. And just so you know, our schools are working on their 2020-21 school success plans, and the due date for that is June 2nd.
Fantastic. Thank you, JM. Appreciate the work everybody's given for that. So this time we need a motion to approve our annual TSSA Ogden School District success plan, goals, and action plan. Someone like to make a motion for that?
This is Joyce.
We are approving the TSSA plans for next year. We're just asking for you to accept the status and the progress.
So with that note, we're just approving the current
The status update, yeah.
status update, which we had to do. So thank you. So Joyce, I'm still assuming you're going to approve that?
Yes.
Is there a second, board members?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Doug's noted that. I also saw where Jennifer needed to leave, so we'll ask her to be excused from this vote, but Don says yes.
Yes.
Nancy says yes.
Doug says yes.
Yes. Joyce, yes.
Hey, this is Jeremy. It says this is just an information item, so do we need to
It's just to accept.
approve it?
We needed to accept the adjustments. Is that correct, JM?
Yes, we are required to share with you as a Board of Education the status, and so it's a formality where you're accepting that status report.
Okay.
So it can go as recorded.
So with that in mind, Jeremy, are you a yes?
Yes.
Great. And Jennifer needed to leave, so all those appreciate that. We'll now come to the last item, which will be pretty quick because we discussed it earlier. That's item 10C, those board policy revisions, the first reading. One, the electronic meetings revision, and the junior high athletics and activities revision. Any additional comments with regards to item 10C?
This is Joyce. Just as a note, we can also approve on first reading.
To approve the first reading, that's what you're suggesting?
Yes.
So Joyce just made a motion to approve the first reading on those two items. That's what it sounded like to me. Is there a second?
This is Jeremy, I'll second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Motion was made by Joyce on a first reading approval. Jeremy seconded it. I will say yes.
Yes.
Nancy says yes.
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 And Doug and Jeremy, I'm hearing your voice as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All with the exception of Jennifer, who needed to be excused. Paula, did you get all that? I'm hoping you, okay.
I have trouble unmuting my mic, so yes, I have that.
Thank you. Okay, just want to make sure of that. Well, that comes to the conclusion of our meeting tonight. We appreciate all those that took part in it, especially our board committee chairs, Cameron, Casey, and Jer for the technology, our superintendent, our business administrator. Thanks to all the district staff who stayed on and stayed awake, as well as all of our board members. We're grateful for you all being here, and with that, we will conclude our board meeting tonight. So thank you again for all being here.